The moon hung like a nicked coin over Ironwood Ridge. Dust kept quiet on the chapel porch. Luke Carver came up the lane leading his mare. He'd meant only to leave a sack of beans for Widow Ruth and ride home to the windmill. But the voices were wrong. Tight, mean, too sure. Two men had May Delaney by the wrists. A little girl clung to her skirt and breathed in tiny, shaking pulls. Deputy Clay Matters stood with a paper like a dog with a fake bone. Luke stopped at the first board. "Evenin'," he said, no louder than needful. He saw the tremor in May's shoulders and the white around the girl's eyes. Matters lifted the page. "Writ of retrieval. She's tied to a debt." "Step aside, Carver," May whispered. "Please." Luke set the sack down. His right hand rested near his holster, but didn't touch iron. "Stand behind me," he said, calm as stating weather. May eased the girl behind his coat. The child's wooden bead, cut like a half-moon, tapped his spur and fell. Tate Murdoch grinned. "Hero rancher. You gonna buy her too?" "Not for sale," Luke said. "Nobody is." He eyed the seal. Ink had run. The date blurred. He'd read enough contracts trading fence posts and salt to know bad paper. "You can show that to Sheriff Lawson," he said. "In daylight." "Lawson works for the county," Matters said. "Creed's paper works for me." "Take your hands off the lady," Luke told Tate and Ike Sutter. "Do it slow." They didn't. Tate twisted May's wrist. Pain showed and was gone. Luke stepped forward. His left hand tipped the paper down. His right lifted, open. "Boys," he said, "you push this, you'll be tellin' it under oath come morning." Matters laughed. "Oath don't weigh much in this town." Luke nodded once, then leaned toward the child. "Sweetheart, hold this." He gave her the beans. Tate yanked again. Luke's heel of hand struck Tate's elbow just enough to open space. May slipped free like a ribbon through a ring and moved behind Luke. "Stand behind me," he said again, softer. Matters drew back his coat so metal showed. "Last time, Carver." "Last time," Luke said. "Put the paper away. Bring it to Lawson. If it holds, I step aside. If it doesn't, you drop it." "What makes you so sure?" Luke touched the seal with a glance. "Ink runs when men sweat over lies." For a tick, nobody moved. The mare blew softly. Matters snapped the paper into his pocket. "We'll be back," he said. "Half Moon's got a way of showin' who belongs to who." "Half Moon only shows where the light quits," Luke said. They went down the steps. The little girl's bead lay by the rail. Luke bent, picked it up, and pressed it into May's palm. Her hand was cold. He set his duster over her shoulders like a father laying a blanket. "You'll be all right here," he said. "Ruth will see to you." May looked up, steady. "Thank you," she said. Back at the porch, he spoke to the child. "You hungry?" She nodded. He split the beans with his knife, half for Ruth's pot, half to settle later. "Tomorrow," he said to May, "we carry that paper to Lawson and let the law look it in the eye." "If the law looks away," she asked, "then we make it look back." He lifted his hat to Ruth and stepped down. The dust remembered his boots and said nothing. On the rail a glint caught his eye. A small silver button stamped BC. He slipped it into his pocket. Trails begin that way. Inches, not miles. Luke led his mare home at a walk. Behind him the porch light steadied. Ahead, the windmill would need oil by dawn. Work keeps a mind from drifting. Law keeps a town from drowning. Between those two, a man might carry one more soul through the dark. He kept a steady, easy pace home. Dawn came on like tin warmed in a palm. Luke milked, greased the windmill, and let the blades talk low. Work first, then law. In the kitchen, May Delaney stood by the stove, sleeve rolled, wrist bandaged neat. The child, Lark, sat with her shoes not reaching the floor, a half-moon bead shut inside her fist. Luke set 2 cups on the table, the second across from his own, the way he'd done since Winter took his wife. Habits hold a man the way rawhide holds a stirrup. "You don't owe us," May said. "Beans don't keep accounts," Luke answered. He passed Lark a little cottonwood spoon he'd carved. Her face eased. That was thanks enough. Doc Helen Pike came at 8 with her black bag and square, kindly eyes. She washed, checked the wrist, and wrote the pattern down. 2 hands took hold, she said. Right tighter than left. I'll sign it. Luke poured coffee. Deputy Matters waved a writ. Paper pretends, Doc said. Bruises tell steady. She tied off the bandage. Ash, carry this to Sheriff Lawson. Luke put a silver button in a cloth packet. Found this on the rail. B.C. Doc nodded. Bart Creed isn't shy with initials. Luke saddled the mare and rode into Ironwood Ridge. Miguel Aranda rang his hammer at the forge. Widow Ruth swept her stoop. Millie Hart unlocked the telegraph. Quick fingers, bright eyes. When Luke showed the packet, she tapped the key. Wire talking south. I'm asking Red Butte for the seal log, she said. If that writ is honest, daylight won't harm it. Daylight's the whole trick, Luke said. Sheriff Lawson read the note and the doctor's line twice, jaw working under the badge. He was a tall, spare man, with a father's patience and a temper he kept on a short rope. If the seal's wrong, I'll hold matters myself, he said. Till I know, keep your powder dry. We do this by the book. By the book, Luke said, and believed it. Belief is a kind of spine. Miguel crossed with a small iron clip. For sealing packets, he said. So, a man can swear nothing changed. Lawson logged it and signed his name careful as a fence line. Luke turned the mare toward home. Road dust rose, changed its mind, and settled again. He fixed the pump handle, oiled the hinges, and set the second cup back on the table. Lark tugged the bell rope once and froze. Luke touched it a single time and gave the mischief its blessing. May unfolded a faded shawl Widow Ruth had sent and laid it under the child's head for a nap. Luke watched her hands. Capable, thrifty, no waste. He trimmed the storm lantern with the cracked globe and hung it on the porch. A house, like a heart, answers small kindness. Hoofbeats came light on the lane. Millie rode up bareback with her hair half loose and the wire slip in her fist. Clerk says the county seal sat in dry storage all last night, she said. No impression made. Your writ's a forgery. May stood in the doorway with one palm against the jamb. Luke read the slip once. The ground felt steadier. The work ahead felt taller. Daylight, he said. Millie nodded. Lawson's on his way. He told me to tell you. Hold to the porch till he brings the badge to bear. Luke looked past her. Heat was sliding off the yard. A hawk hung over the wash, a nail in a wide board. We'll be here, he said. He touched the lamp. 2 short, 1 long. Habit more than signal. They ate simple and quiet. Lark dreamed with the bead in her fist and a thread of corn mash on her lip. May sipped and looked at the second cup as if seeing an old promise made to a different life. Tomorrow, Luke said, we carry the truth to town. If they bring the lie first, May asked, then the porch will hear both. It would be enough. By noon the town had opinions. Luke felt them in looks that slid off and doors that shut a beat too quick. Widow Ruth's livery took the first rock. Glass rhymed the stoop. Luke swept with her, said little. Ruth sent a neighbor boy for water. Miguel's forge found a chalk mark on its back wall, a crooked B beside a C. He scrubbed till his knuckles went pale iron. Luke studied hoof cuts outside, a front shoe bored from the left, nail pattern wide. He sketched the shape into his pocketbook. Millie pressed a wire slip into Luke's palm. Judge Amos back Friday. Lawson wants a porch hearing first, then court. Friday's long if you stand in it, Luke said. Shorter if you stand together, she said. May kept to the kitchen, not hiding, just choosing where her hands could be useful. She boiled a pot for Doc's bandages and stitched a child's shoe left by the step. Lark sat on the floor and drummed a march. Things swell before they shrink, Luke told May. What if it breaks instead? Then we splint it. Sheriff Lawson nailed a notice on Luke's porch. Parties to present paper and person at sundown. No sidearms on the step. Witnesses to be named in ink. Matters rode by slow, reading it out loud as if the words owed him. Tate and Ike grinned like boys who'd found a meaner game. Afternoon heat laid a tin lid on the basin. Luke hauled water, dragged a wet sack along the feed shed, and set a pail on the threshold. Near supper, a smell threaded the yard that didn't belong. Lamp oil among dry chaff. Luke went to it easy. A rag knotted under the eave burned to a coal. He pinched it with a green stick, dropped it in the pail. He didn't swear. He looked at the ground. The same left-board shoe had pressed an impatient story into the dust, toe turned out. The trail walked itself toward Half Moon Wash. May came out with a tin plate. "Supper's getting dry. Put it back by the stove. I'll take mine after I see to this." "On to what?" "Someone tries to teach us fear. We'll answer with order." She thought, then said, "I can boil water for the hearing. Folks grow civilized when there's coffee. Make 2 pots." They ate with the window open and the lamp trimmed low. Luke checked the rifle he wouldn't carry to the porch, laid iron on the table, thought better, and slid it into the rack. Lark slept with her bead in her fist. May set a shawl over the child. "I'm sorry for the trouble that follows me," she said. "Trouble follows men who make it," Luke said. "You're just on the road the same day." Wind leaned once on the eaves and quit. At sundown, the first witness came, a farm wife with a bruise like spilled ink and a slip of paper crumpled in her fist. "He said I was on a ledger," she told Luke. "He said ledgers don't care who they carry." "Ledgers care when the law reads them," he said. "You'll speak to Lawson and Doc." May gave the woman bread and a quilt corner where a person could be small without losing face. Miguel brought the iron clip and a wax seal stamped with a horseshoe nail so they could mark packets proper. Millie carried a ledger of her own and a pen with a new nib. Luke hammered the notice straight and swept the boards. Then he set the cracked storm lantern in the crook of the beam. 2 short, 1 long. Hooves sounded on the lane, few, but enough. Luke rested his hands by his sides and felt the edge of the second cup on the table behind him, like a promise a man could keep if he stood steady. "Evenin'," Matters called from the dust. "You ready to play court?" "We're ready to tell the truth," Luke said. The dust moved again, and with it came a colder smell. Fresh oil on new paper. Law abides. Morning put a clean shine on nothing. Ironwood Ridge kept its dents. Luke stood while Sheriff Lawson took names and set the badge between tongues. Matters waved the same writ. Lawson pinned it with a thumb. "Daylight will tell," he said, sealing it and sending folks off. By noon the freight boss rolled in, coat brushed, boots slick. Bart Creed smiled like a banker and stepped onto Widow Ruth's porch as if boards had waited on him. Matters flanked. Tate smirked. Ike tied horses too tight. "Order," Creed told the street, "keeps a hard country from biting through its bit. When property strays, responsible men retrieve it." Luke didn't rise. "Morning, Creed." "You hauled for the rail, Carver. Paper turns the axle. I hold paper." "Then set it in front of Lawson," Luke said. "He's got light for any axle." A farmer asked about seed credit. Matters made a slow list. A teamster's wife asked when rates might ease. Tate laughed through his nose. Ruth refilled cups that wanted to tremble. Creed turned generous. "I'll extend credit," he said, "to every household that steers clear of this rancher's theater. Men who make trouble won't ride my freight." Luke put down 2 coins. He paid Ruth for winter hay, the smith for coal enough to run till snow, and told the teamster he'd carry 1 load free if it kept a child fed. No speech. Just ledger lines a man can point at. May stood in Ruth's doorway with Lark on her hip. Luke felt the street watching, hungry to scorn, hungry to refrain. He kept his hat on and his head level. Creed's smile thinned. He stepped close enough to smell honest sweat. "Grand gesture," he said. "You can't feed a county." "I can feed whoever stands on my porch," Luke said. "The county can feed itself, if law gets air." Millie Hart slid a damp wire slip into Luke's palm. "From Red Butte," she said low. "Clerk swears the county seal never touched wax last night." Creed tipped his hat to May and walked off. By the hitch, a flash in dust. A silver button stamped BC. Luke set his boot on it until the dust forgot, then palmed it and felt the little teeth where thread had torn. Miguel joined him. "3 wagons left at dawn with canvas over the beds," he said. "Headed for Half Moon Wash. Freight or folks?" "Freight doesn't weep." "Tell Lawson." They went to the telegraph. Millie tapped a clean string. Reply snapped. HM rotation changed. 9 o'clock. What's HM? May asked. Half moon code, Millie said. Shift change at the wash. Fewer guards. Lawson weighed the wire and the button. Keep your porch tight, he told Luke. No firearms on the step. I'll walk the street. We run by the book till the book runs out. And then? Then we write more pages. At sunset, Luke and Miguel rode to a ridge where a man could see the wash cut its grin through the flats. The sky went penny brown. Coyotes stitched the first seam of night along the far fence. They'll come? Miguel asked. Miguel. They always test what won't bow. Back at the ranch, Luke hung the cracked storm lantern and set the wick low. 2 short, 1 long. Not a summons. A promise. May set the second cup without a word. Lark lined 3 beans on the sill and slept counting them. Outside, hoofbeats wrote slow circles where men think courage thins. Luke stood at porch edge, hands down, hat easy. Stand behind me, he said. The words went out over the yard like a fence you can't see but know is there. From the lane came a laugh with no humor, leather creaked, paper crackled in an impatient hand. Half moon climbed. Shadows measured the boards. Law would have it say, 1 line at a time, under the eye that watches both sides of the night. Morning sharpened like a file drawn across steel. The wind held back. Luke worked until the hour could carry law. He tightened pump bolts, wiped the windmill tail, and made a list in his pocketbook. Seal, witnesses, chain of hands, time. Sheriff Lawson came on foot, hat back. Porch hearing at sundown, he said. No sidearms on the step. I'll take statements in ink and mark what passes. Doc Helen? Luke asked. On her way? Doc arrived with her bag. She looked at May's wrist, the purple turning yellow at the edges, and the finger marks that didn't match. She measured, noted, signed, and sealed with wax. People lie, she said. Bruises don't. Miguel followed with a small jawed clip. For packets, he said, and squeezed the jaws so the teeth bit clean. He had stamped a tiny horseshoe in one face so a man could tell if someone swapped the piece. Millie Hart rode up next with wire slips folded neat. Clerk confirmed again, she said. County seal never left the drawer. And Creed's freight rotated guards at half moon last night. 9 becomes 8. Fewer eyes, Luke said. Or different eyes, Millie answered. Lawson set the badge on the porch rail like a plumb line. May Delaney, he said, gentle as he could. Tell it from when it started. May told it in a voice that carried while sparing herself. When her throat thinned, Millie poured water and waited. Lark watched from the doorway with the half-moon bead locked in her fist. Luke kept his eyes on Lawson's pen. A life gets steadier when ink holds its shape. 2 farm wives came near noon and signed their names slow. One had a bruise under hair, clean as a brand. The other carried a paper with a deadline she had never seen. Lawson clipped each to the packet, marked the time, and let Doc countersign. Tear came quiet. May stepped behind the door and came back with bread and a spoon Luke had carved for Lark. She set the plate where the women could eat without being looked at. Thank you, one said. We keep each other, May answered. Luke put the silver button in a muslin fold with Millie's slips and Doc's line, then watched Miguel press the clip and squeeze. The teeth set. The horseshoe mark shone dull. Chain's good, Lawson said. Now we keep the porch clear of gunmetal and pride. Pride walks loudest, Luke said. Then make it walk off, Lawson told him, and went to pace the lane. Toward evening, Luke wired the lantern wick, trimmed smoke, and hung the cracked globe where the beam met the post. 2 short, 1 long. Habit, not call. He set 2 cups as always, and felt the old ache step back when May poured both without asking. Ruth will bring a pot, May said. Coffee makes men listen longer. It does, Luke said. He gave Lark a square of cornbread and a scrap of twine. The child looped the twine through her bead and wore the half-moon like a medal. A hawk went to roost and took the light with it. Men with paper would come. Men with iron might try. Luke touched the post and set it under his breath. Not for comfort, just for promise. Stand behind me. May heard and stepped to the porch edge. She opened her palm and set a second half-moon down, thin wood she had cut from a broken pail hoop. For somebody who arrives after us, she said. Luke nodded. That's how towns get built. Hoofbeats sounded small on the lane. Lawson's shape took the last of the light, and behind him, Millie, Miguel, and Ruth, with a coffee pot big enough to soften a jury. All right, Lawson said, steady. We'll hear what's true, and the rest can go begging. Luke let out a breath he hadn't known he held. Knight stood up. The porch felt ready. Wind kept still as a held breath. The porch held Doc Helen's packet, Miguel's clip, Millie's slips, Lawson's badge. Luke kept to the rail, listening for the wrong sound. It came thin, then mean. A hiss where no kettle stood. He caught the smell, lamp oil, threading dry chaff along the feed shed. Stay on the boards, he told the crowd, and stepped off slow. A rag burned to a coal under the eave. Luke slid a green stick through the knot and dropped the fire into a bucket he had set there. A second rag smoldered near the corral gate. Miguel ran with a shovel. I'll cut a wet line, he said, dragging a soaked burlap to throw a narrow ditch. Luke hauled the pail and soaked the hay fringe. Sparks tried for dry country and failed. May came with another bucket, both hands white from the weight. Back, Luke said. I have hands, she answered, and threw. Steam jumped. Her palms slipped, skinned, and kept going. Lark stood in the doorway, thumb set, eyes big. Lawson moved folks up the steps. Evidence, he told Doc. We'll bag it live. Doc fed the rags into a tin and pressed wax across the seam. Miguel's clip took the bite. The tiny horseshoe sank into the seal. Millie wrote the time. Luke set it out. Rag under North Eve. Second at Corral Gate. Prince? Lawson asked. Luke pointed the lamp. A clear shoe mark showed a bore from the left. The toe turned out like a man who swaggered more than he ran. Same shoe as the livery wall, Miguel said. Half Moon Trail starts at that fence, Luke said. Men had time to light and ride. Doc took May inside, laid cool cloths on blisters. Hands up, Luke said, hat in his fingers. May met his eye. Don't fuss. Pour water? He poured. The cracked storm lantern threw a steady circle. Outside, the heat was gone. The air kept the memory. Lawson faced the yard. Whoever set those rags knows our schedule, he said. They wanted panic to break our hearing. Panic broke nothing, Ruth said, bringing coffee. Have a cup and write the names again. People settled. Lawson took 2 statements from farm wives who had waded through the smoke. Millie signed, Doc countersigned. May, bandaged, left cups where hands could find them without being watched. Luke swept the boards and set the bucket within 1 step. A low laugh came from the lane. Tate Murdoch rode a slow circle, letting his horse print the same left board pattern in a neat row. Ike Sutter tied too close to the rail. Lawson lifted a palm. Street side, he said. No iron on the boards. Tate grinned. We brought paper instead. Deputy Clay Matters pushed through dust with a new sheet, corners sharp, wax clean and red. He held it high. County seal, he said. Proper and pretty. Millie tipped her chin. We'll see what the wire says. Wire can hum later, Matters said. This sings now. Luke looked at the wax. The emblem sat clear. If truth could be borrowed from a careful thief. He kept his hands down. Lay it on the rail and let the law read. Matters smiled without humor. Or I can read it to you. It says the woman is property due back to the man who paid her debts. It says you're in the way. May's bandaged fingers tightened on a cup. Luke set his body half a step wider between her and the men. Lawson, he said, eyes on Clay. You want that paper kindly, or after we're all tired? Kindly, Lawson said. The deputy stepped to the rail. The seal shone red under the cracked lantern. Luke felt the boards answer with a small rise, like a boat taking a first wave. The half-moon climbed clear of the cottonwoods. Read it, Luke said. Matters laid the page flat. The crowd leaned. The night leaned harder. Lawson read the new writ on the rail, while the cracked lantern held its small circle. He didn't hurry. The wax looked right, the seal clean, dates squared as if a clerk had ironed them flat. Deputy, he said at last, this sits with the others till Red Butte answers. Till then, nobody leaves this porch who doesn't choose it. Matters smiled. Then, I'll take something that does choose. He slapped Luke's bay. This mare obstructed an officer. Impound till morning. That's nonsense, Miguel said. Street side, Lawson warned. Luke set his breath even. Write your tag, he told Clay. I'll sign receipt. Matters knotted a red strip on the rein and scrawled his badge number. Luke read it twice, set it for Millie to jot, then put his palm on the mare's neck till she quit fretting. Loss should be taught not to kick. Tate rode the bay off with a grin a brim couldn't hide. Ike followed, tying too short, sharp as a burr. They wanted noise. Luke left them silence. May stood by the post, bandaged hand curled. I'm sorry. You didn't light the match, he said. They did. Lawson folded the writ into muslin, pressed Miguel's clip till the teeth bit, and wrote time and place across the fold. Millie slid a wire under his hand. Clerk's awake, she said. Seals logged for court only, not for deputies at night. Clay spread his fingers. Clerks talk pretty after supper. Ruth came with a pot that would warm a barn. Drink before you decide to be fools, she said. Men obeyed coffee where they wouldn't obey reason. Two farmhands spoke to Doc of debts written after signatures. Doc wrote, Lawson signed, Millie sealed. The porch took their words the way dry ground takes a steady rain. Lark woke and pinched the bell rope. May caught her hand gentle. Not tonight, little songbird. Luke felt that word in his chest. He trimmed the lantern. Two short, one long. Habit keeps corners square. Matters lingered with the look of a man counting posts, not his. You play sheriff well, Lawson. Tomorrow, the boss plays judge. Tomorrow, a judge plays judge, Lawson said. Bring shoes with honest nails. Tate laughed and flashed a brass ring with a shallow signet. In the lamping, Luke saw a cousin to the county seal, worn from pressing wax, not law. He marked the nick on its rim and the way Tate tucked the chain like a boy hiding candy in church. Night thinned. People drifted home with the walk of those who stood up and found they still could. Luke stacked cups. May wiped the rail where hands had sweated doubt into the grain and left it for daylight. Your mare, she said. She knows her way to morning. The yard quieted. The windmill kept a slow prayer. Hoofbeats came quick, like a message. Millie rode bareback, hair damp with hurry, wire slip clenched in her teeth till she hit the porch. From Red Butte, she panted. Clerk swears the county seal sat locked in a drawer from dusk to now. Whoever stamped Clay's page used another die. Lawson's shoulders lost a pound. We move at first light, porch at 7, then courthouse. What about your horse? May asked. She'll meet me on the far side, Luke said. Millie glanced. One more thing. Freight guards at Half Moon dropped from 9 to 8. They think they've scared us soft. Luke touched the lantern. Two short, one long. The flame nodded once. We heard you, he told the night. We're not soft. He shut the door so the latch wouldn't wake the child, and stood long enough to bring his breath down to the old farm rhythm that holds between storms. Morning would test the ink. Paper would have to stand up like a man. Law waits for men to lift it, then carry it. They rode before first light, when even the coyotes kept counsel. Luke checked the cinch, nodded to Miguel, and took the ridge above Half Moon Wash. The land lay flat as open paper. Canvas, Miguel murmured. 3 freight wagons waited below. Canvas tight, 2 guards on the ground, one higher with a rifle across his knees. We don't shoot, Luke said. We see, then carry. They slid down on heels and hands. Time passed quiet. Then, the guard shift changed the way Millie's wire said it would. Luke eased to the rear wagon, lifted the loose flap, and found a crate belted with red twine and soft wax. He palmed 2 telegraph slips and a corner torn from the ledger. Columns narrow, tidy, signed by a hand that liked its own ink. A face dropped in the gap, whiskey on the breath. Luke's palm found the mouth and his thumb the hinge of the jaw. Sleep, he whispered. The man slept. From the rocks, Ike Sutter tried a whisper of his own and slipped on gravel. Luke turned the fallen rifle and took the boy by his belt so the gun wouldn't bark. Stay put, he said, almost kind. "Thief!" Tate called from the second wagon. A shot cracked and kissed Stone at Luke's shoulder. Stone kissed back. Heat ran down his arm. He moved anyway. Miguel kicked dust to make a ghost and shouldered a lantern the wrong way so light slashed where it shouldn't. "Ride," Miguel said. They clawed the wash wall and let the horses earn their hay. Shots came late and wild. Canvas stayed closed. On the ridge, Luke tied a neckerchief tight over the cut. "Doc will stitch," Miguel said. "She will," Luke answered, holding up what they had. One slip marked HM with clean times, another naming a shipment as retrieval, living. On the backboard, a small silver button still clung by a torn thread. BC. He freed it and felt the nick on the rim he'd already learned. They went home low to the ground. Morning came gray and undecided. May waited on the porch with hot water, a needle already threaded. "Inside," she said. Doc Helen followed with clean hands and a little smile that meant grit respected grit. Luke sat and let them work. The needle walked careful. Miguel kept the world out by filling the doorway. "Did you fire?" May asked. "No." "Thank you." Luke set the ledger corner and the slips on the table. May moved the bloody cloth away so nothing smeared the ink. Millie arrived at a hard trot and read the clerk code fast. "We can match HM to the ironwood line by minute. This won't wash." "It will stand," Luke said. "Porch at 7, court after." Hooves beat the lane, more than neighbors, too tidy for chance. Bart Creed's voice carried like coin on wood. "Carver, you stole from lawful freight. Bring out the woman and what you took." Luke went to the jam and felt the porch steady his ribs. The second cup sat where it always sat. The cracked storm lantern hung where it always hung. "Stand behind me," he said over his shoulder. May moved Lark without waking her. Miguel picked up the broom a man could trip over. Creed laughed. "Half Moon hears my orders. Your porch hears them now." "The porch hears the law," Luke said. "Bring paper that can stand daylight." Leather creaked. Men settled into a ring. You could feel more than see. Luke thumbed the lantern wick. Two short, one long. The flame steadied as if it, too, had made up its mind. "Sheriff's comin'," Millie whispered. "I reckon," Luke said. He stepped onto the boards and let the half moon draw a thin line across his boots. "Bring your paper," he told the dark. "We'll read it together." Hooves fanned out. Reins clicked. Horse breathed hard. Luke held still. The night waited on law. They came at 7, hats off. Lawson set his badge on the rail and opened his ledger. The cracked storm lantern threw a small coin of light. Luke faced the yard. May and the child stood close behind him. "Names," Lawson said. "Then truth." Doc Helen laid out twine, wax, the jawed clip, a cloth. A farmer told how a loan fattened while he slept. His wife unpinned her hair. The bruise lay where no witness could stand. Doc measured, noted color, sealed the cloth. Miguel pressed the clip till the little horseshoe bit. Millie stamped time. Matters and Tate watched from the lane. Horses worrying iron. Clay played a sheet between his fingers. May told her part in a voice made for church benches. She named hands without spitting on souls. When her bandage pulled, Ruth slid a cup beneath her good hand, so pride had somewhere to rest. A baby cried at the street. A thin woman reached for a ribbon where a child ought to be. Tate had taken her girl at dawn on a retrieval that was neither law nor mercy. Luke stepped down, hat in hand, and for a minute held the child while the mother learned how to breathe again. May tucked a shawl corner. Ruth poured coffee. "Back to paper," Lawson said. He read Luke's ledger corner and matched the clerk's hand to Millie's wire. HM 9 to 8. Half Moon's guard change. He read a slip marked retrieval, living. He read the number on the deputy's sidearm against a freight list for issued weapons. The nails of the case held. Matters took the lowest stare. "Judge decides whose ink counts," he said. "Till then the boss calls the tune." "The book calls it," Lawson said. "Fetch your boss, and we'll sing together." Bart Creed let the street part for him. Coat neat, eyes neat. "Enough performance," he said. "Commerce blushes." "Show your paper," Luke said. Creed smiled, like a man tasting lemon, and calling it sweet. He laid a writ on the rail. Wax shone proper. Seal sat clean. Lawson marked the fold, numbered it, and set it with its cousins in muslin. Miguel clipped. Doc signed. Millie timed. "Done?" Creed asked. "Not yet," Luke said. He set a silver button stamped BC by the seal. "You dropped a thread." It told the rest. "Buttons wander," Creed said. "So do men," Luke answered, "but a shoe tells where they went." He pointed to the row of left board tracks in the dust. Lawson paced, bent, and nodded once. Voices swelled and broke. The half-moon climbed. Luke felt the small shift a town makes when it thinks it might belong to itself again. "Last call," Lawson said. "If any soul has a thing to say under oath, say it. Else we close and carry to Red Butte at sunup." A freighter raised his hand. "We were told not to look under canvas," he said. "We looked. We saw people." "Names," Lawson said. "Couldn't," the man answered. "They were bound and quiet." Clay smiled thin. "We're done here. Hand over the woman." May stepped before Luke could speak. "I am not for sale," she said. "Not for rent, not for trade, not for fear." "Porch hearing closed," Lawson said, moving to split the crowd. "We walked to court in the morning." Clay whistled. In the dark, reins jerked, metal clinked, horses shifted in a slow ring like rain that won't fall. "Boss says bring her now," Clay told Lawson. "Half Moon don't wait for gavel." "Law does," Lawson said. Luke eased his shoulders. He thumbed the wick, two short, one long, and felt the porch turn into what porches are for, a line a man can stand on between a house and a hard world. "Stand behind me," he told May, and the boards hummed under his boots as the first horses came on. The half-moon drew a pale bar on the boards. The night held its breath. The first horse nosed the step as if law were salt. Luke felt the boards take his weight and give it back. The cracked lantern threw a coin of light. The trough held a wavering twin. "Street side," Lawson called. "No iron on the boards." Clay Matters smiled and set one boot on the stair. Tate hung left, toe turned out, pleased with his track. Ike tied short. Luke inched his boot until lamp glare lay across the water. "Back a step," he told May, without turning. She moved Lark inside. Clay lifted a fresh writ. "Last read, then we retrieve." "Lay it flat," Lawson said. Tate jerked his chin. Two riders drifted to the feed shed. A hiss rose. Luke said, "Miguel." The smith slid off with a wet sack. Tate shot at the lantern. Luke had the angle. He twisted the lamp. The bullet took glass, and the flame flared sideways, white as a slap. Horses shied. Clay grabbed iron. Luke fired once. Clean. Clay's revolver skittered to the rail and thumped to a stop. "Street side," Lawson repeated. "Hands up." Ike kicked for the step. Miguel whipped the wet sack into the gelding's eyes. The horse sat back and saved the boy from himself. Ruth sloshed coffee across the stair. Tate slid, arms windmilling, and his brass signet popped free and rang on the boards. May put her back to Luke's. "Stand behind me," he said. "I'm here," she answered. Clay clawed for the dropped gun. Luke set his heel on the barrel. Lawson towed the pistol onto Doc's cloth. Millie called the time. Miguel pressed the clip. The tiny horseshoe bit neat into wax. "Badge number," Lawson said. "Matches the freight list," Millie answered. "Issued through Creed's office." Clay spat. "You'll drown in paper." "Paper floats when it's signed," Lawson said. A second shot came low from the shed. The rail splintered. A sliver nicked Luke's cheek. "Shed," he said. Miguel heaved the bucket into the dark. Water flashed. A rider jerked, blind for a beat. Luke fired once and took the carbine from his hands without taking the hand. Silence landed heavy. "Lay down iron," Lawson said, "or spend the night in our hospital." Tate's grin wilted. He backed his horse. Ike followed. Clay went last, left hand clumsy. "It won't stand forever," he said. "It stands long enough," Luke told him. They cleared the steps. May pressed a clean cloth to Luke's cheek, thumb light. "It's nothing," he said. She held anyway. Lawson wrote, then nodded. "The ring." Tate's signet lay by the post. Cheap cousin to the county seal, nick on the rim. Doc wrapped it. Miguel clipped. Millie read the hour. The packet stack grew. In the street, Creed's voice came flat. "Done playing brave?" "Brave enough to wait for sunrise," Clay said. "Good," Creed said. We'll wait." Wind pushed once and quit. The half-moon kept its thin road. Inside, Lark reached for the bell rope. May kissed her knuckles. Luke set the second cup, where a man could find it in the dark. "Thank you," May said. "For what?" "For not mistaking fury for courage." He nodded. Lawson holstered slow. "We ride to Red Butte after breakfast." He tapped the packets. "You kept this porch inside the law." "The law kept the porch," Luke said. Far off, a horn blew. Thin, official. It came again, closer, with the gait of a government team on hard road. Luke heard it. So did the men in the lane. Leather creaked, reins tightened. "Marshal," Lawson said. The horn sounded a third time and laid a straight line down the street to the rail where Clay's pistol had kissed wood. Luke breathed once and let his shoulders settle. "Daylight's bringing company," he said. No one spoke for a long beat. Quiet. The porch held. The town listened. The horn belonged to a government team and a man who wasted no breath. U.S. Marshal Cole Rollins stepped down with dust on his coat and law in his eyes. Lawson met him at the rail. Luke kept the porch steady with his boots. "Papers?" Rollins asked. "Sealed and signed," Lawson said. "We've got a deputy waving a forged writ and a freight boss buying nights." Rollins looked once at May and the child and understood more than words. "We take a witness that breathes," he said. "Name the weak link." "Ike Sutter," Luke said. "Young. Wants to be older than his nerve." "Where?" "Box Canyon." "Keep your porch," Rollins said. "I'll take one man who can read tracks without talk." Luke looked at May. She didn't argue. She tied clean cloth around his stitched arm. "Bring back the truth," she said. "I will," Luke said. They rode without lanterns. The canyon mouth waited like a slot in the land where a story could slide and stick. They found Ike's trail where swagger turned to hurry. The left board shoe chopped out deep, then scuffed like a boy who'd thought better. "No shots," Rollins said. "No heroics. We talk, and the rocks can echo oath enough." A mule shifted ahead. Ike's silhouette tried for tall and failed. "Evenin', Ike," Luke said. "You lose your way or your sleep." Ike lifted a rifle. Rollins spoke the way a doctor talks a fever down. "Set it by the stone." The rifle clinked. "He'll hang me," Ike said. "Not if you set the weight where it belongs," Luke said. He held a canteen. Ike drank like he'd forgotten water could be for mercy. "Tell it and breathe," Rollins said. "Start with the seal." "Clay's got a ring, looks near enough," Ike said. "Creed keeps the clerk busy and takes what he wants after dark. We called it retrieval so teamsters wouldn't look. We changed guards at half moon, so nobody watched long." "Names?" Rollins said. Ike spoke them. Bart Creed, Clay Matters, Tate Murdoch, 2 boys who ran canvas like a curtain, a clerk's helper who liked coin more than oaths. His voice shook, but it held. "When you falter," Luke said, "think about sleep." "I saw women under the canvas," Ike answered. "I told myself they were debt. Debt doesn't cry without making a sound." Rollins unloaded the rifle and gave it back empty. "Carry it to court," he said. "Point it at the floor and at your own lies. Walk ahead of us." They led him out as the rocks paled. The wind had a tin taste before dawn. On the ridge, Luke looked back at the cut where shadows fold like old paper. "Enough," he said. "It's the start," Rollins answered. They reached the porch as the lantern went cold from its own duty. May moved the child to a quiet corner. Lawson read what Rollins had written and what Ike had said. Doc Helen listened like a bell. "You'll swear to this in Red Butte," Lawson told Ike. "I will," Ike said, fixing on the second cup as if it were a plain altar. "I wish I'd been braver earlier." "Being brave on time is rare," Luke said. "Being brave now will do." Rollins looked toward Creed's end of the street. "He'll run to the courthouse to spend his polish," he said. "We'll meet him there and make the polish work for us." Luke felt the stitch pull when he breathed. He hung the cracked lantern and thumbed the wick. 2 short, 1 long. The porch answered. "Daylight," he said. "Daylight," Rollins agreed. They saddled before breakfast. The government team took the packets. Lawson took the witnesses. Rollins took the oath that made his badge heavy. Luke took the quiet between words and made it a promise. Red Butte waded down a hard road. The sky wore no expression. Law doesn't need a mood. It needs a door, and men willing to walk through. Red Butte Courthouse looked like a school that had learned to keep quiet. Benches creaked with people willing to believe in paper. Sheriff Lawson set sealed packets on the clerk's table. Miguel's tiny horseshoes bit each blob of wax. Millie stacked telegraph slips. Doc Helen checked notes like a midwife checks breath. Judge Amos Rollins took the bench without show. Compact, plain, a voice that asked a thing once. "We'll hear it," he said. "We'll write it down. We'll keep it." Luke sat in the front row, hat on his knees. May sat with Lark asleep across her lap. Marshal Cole Rollins stood at the wall and let his badge speak. "State your parcel," the judge said. Lawson named the porch hearing, and the hour rags were found. Doc told the pattern of bruises, then signed. She didn't sweeten or harden. She put light on what was. Millie read times and codes. HM 9 to 8. Half moon guard change. She matched clerk marks to wire records and laid the string clear. Luke told what he saw and what he chose not to do. "We took slips and a ledger corner," he said, "and we didn't fire to kill." He set silver buttons stamped BC on the rail like paying an old debt. Ike Sutter came next, hat crushed. He named the ring Clay used. The knight's creed bought from the clock, the canvas that said nothing and said too much. When his voice shook, the marshal stood closer. A man can borrow spine. Creed's lawyer rose like a man unfolding a map. "Commerce," he said, "requires order. My client retrieved assets purchased in good faith. If the clerk's seal wandered, that is for audit, not posse." "The clerk's seal sat locked," Millie said. "We'll let the clerk speak," the judge answered. The clerk swore the die slept in its drawer from dusk to dawn, and named the only times it woke this month. None were last night. "Deputy Clay matters," Lawson said. Clay came forward with a face that had run out of swagger. Lawson read the badge number off the pistol from Luke's porch and set it to the freight list. Numbers matched. Clay swallowed and asked for water. Judge Rollins leaned back. "Writs are not lanterns for wolves," he said. "They are doors. Doors need keys. Keys don't copy themselves in the dark." He signed warrants for Clay and Tate Murdoch and ordered them held. May pressed her palm to Lark's hair and closed her eyes for one breath long enough to be a prayer. Creed's lawyer smiled thin. One last item. One deed. He laid a paper with a county stamp bright as a coin and a signature that looked like the clerk's if the clerk had slept fine. The judge looked at it, then at the clerk. The clerk blanched. "That stamp is right," he said, "but that is not how my hand makes an R." Doc tilted the page to light. "Different ink, different pen. Same day, it claims." Miguel tapped the rim of the signet Tate dropped. The nick kissed the table. Creed did not blink. "Property moves," he said. "Men of sense keep up." Luke felt the room gather like a team before a grade. The judge set the deed aside without touching the seal. "We'll recess," he said. "Clerk, fetch the seal log and every deed under this number for 30 days. Marshal, keep the corridor clean. Sheriff, hold your men." May looked at Luke. "If the paper lies pretty enough." "Then we make it look back," he said. They rose. The hallway smelled of old pine. "Half Moon won't wait for gavel," Lawson said. "It will wait for bars," the marshal answered. Luke touched the bead at Lark's throat and felt the little half moon. He thumbed the edge like a coin. A man keeps for luck he won't claim. "Daylight," he said to himself and to the girl, asleep against her mother. Daylight. The judge returned with the seal log. "Clerk," he said, "show me your hand." The clerk wrote the county name twice. The R slanted. The deed on Creed's table curled neat and wrong. "That signature isn't mine," the clerk said. "The stamp is, but the hour says it slept." Judge Rollins nodded. "Marshal." Cole Rollins stepped forward. "Clay matters, Tate Murdoch, stand." Deputies took their arms. Creed's lawyer rose. "My client's commerce is lawful. These theatrics—" "Sit," the judge said. He lifted Luke's packet. Miguel's tiny horseshoe shone in the wax. Telegraph slips matched the clerk's wire. Ledger corner names issued sidearms. Bruises fit hands. Writs don't fit seals. He signed the warrant for Bart Creed. Bring him. Creed stood, smooth. Judge, you will embarrass yourself. Possibly, Rollins said, but the county keeps its face. The marshal stepped. Creed reached for the lawyer's satchel. Luke saw the shape underneath, the hinge of a derringer fixed in felt. He rose before he knew, hat still in hand. Don't, Luke said. Steel flashed moth-small. Luke's shot came once, straight. The derringer flew, clattered, slid under the defense table, and bit wood. May breathed again. The judge did not move. "Thank you, Mr. Carver," he said. "Marshal?" Cuffs kissed Creed's wrists. "You think a coin can't buy this back?" he asked softly. "Coins buy lamps," the judge said. "Oaths light courtrooms." He turned to the room. "This county will hold a full hearing on indictments named here. Till then, these men are held without badge or horse." Clay sagged. The thin woman from the porch stood in the aisle, searching benches as if eyes could build a child from air. A small face lifted near the back, shawled by Widow Ruth. The cry that followed was gentle and terrible. May went to them, set a fresh shawl across both shoulders, and put a wooden half-moon in the child's palm. "Hold this when you sleep," she whispered. Lawson stacked packets after the clerk marked the last line. Miguel pressed the clip. The little horseshoe left an honest bite. Creed's lawyer tried a last thread. "Your Honor, the freight moved people who chose debt relief." "People don't choose chains," the judge said. He ordered audit of Creed freight, seizure of ledgers and stamps, suspension of deputy matters. The marshal countersigned. Luke stepped back to May. Her hand found his sleeve and stayed, not from fear, but to say she was steady. Outside, Red Butte looked the same and not. "Ride home," Lawson told Luke. "I'll send copies by Millie. Keep your porch until habit sets." "Habit's half the work," Luke said. On the steps, Creed turned once. "You don't win," he told Luke. "We don't aim to," Luke said. "We aim to stand." The marshal led him on. Clay and Tate followed, smaller than they'd meant to be. Ruth hitched the government team. May lifted Lark. The child tucked her face in May's neck and let go of a week's breath. Luke watched the lane clear and felt the kind of tired that means a day paid for itself. "Home," he said. They took the slow road. At Blue Coyote Ranch, the porch waited with boards that remember boots. Luke hung the cracked lamp and thumbed the wick. Two short, one long. He set the second cup. May stood with him and did not talk. Some victories are better kept quiet. In the yard, a single shoe print showed toe turned out, old, soft at the edges. Luke scuffed it with his heel until it quit meaning anything. Then he put the silver buttons and the cheap signet on a plate and covered them with muslin, ready for the long hearing to come. "Tonight," May said, "we sleep." "We do," Luke said. "Amen." The house did too. They reached the ranch before dusk. The yard kept its dents. The porch took his weight. Luke hung the cracked lantern, trimmed the wick to a steady thread. May laid Lark on the settee with Ruth's quilt. The child slept heavy, half-moon bead warm at her throat. Luke set the second cup where it belongs. Hands remember. Miguel stopped long enough to fix the split rail and tap a tiny horseshoe under the beam. "A porch holds better after it's been tried," he said. Luke squeezed his forearm. Millie rode up with copies from Red Butte. Judge Amos signed. Clerk logged the seal. Lawson's walking the street like it's paid for. She grinned and was gone. Doc Helen checked May's wrist, yellowing right, and touched the nick along Luke's cheek. "Keep the salve," she said, "and keep your temper under it." She left them good quiet. Evening smelled of coffee and hot beans, and iron cooled right. Luke took his pocket knife and the thin strip of hoop wood May had saved, sat on the step, and carved slow until a neat half-moon showed. He didn't rush the letters. M.D. went on the face. He oiled the edge, pierced a hole. May watched. "For me?" she asked softly. "For whoever stands after us," he said. "If that's you, I won't complain." She smiled, small and true, threaded the bead on a cord, and hung it beside the lantern. On the shelf, Luke set a muslin-wrapped plate, the silver button stamped B.C., and Tate's cheap signet, ready for the long hearing to come. Time would help Carrie now. He quit pushing. The porch breathed easier. Ruth's boy brought flour and news that the livery window was fixed. Luke paid him, sent jerky back, and a note. Porch open, coffee on. Enough. They ate because supper makes a house sure of itself. Lark woke, came barefoot, touched the bead, and showed a gap-toothed grin. "Moon," she said. "Half of one," Luke said. "The rest is for later." Or he walked the yard line and scuffed out the last leftboard print until it meant nothing. A small weight lifted from his ribs. He came back with his hat in his hand and the lamp warm. May met him in the doorway, bandage off, wrist pink and sound. He took her hand and kissed the ridge, left by rope, the way a man eases a cracked rein. She didn't pull away. "Stand behind me," he said. "I'm here," she answered. He thumbed the wick, 2 short, 1 long. The little signal went across the yard into a town learning how to be honest. Millie at her key, Miguel at his forge, Lawson, walking steady. Ruth would see it from the livery and pour a pot. Lark leaned into May and slept. Luke set his hat on the peg and put the second cup within reach. A man keeps faith with small things. "Courthouse tomorrow?" May asked. "When they call," he said. "Tonight we're home." The windmill said nothing. Glass ticked as it cooled. A cricket started and changed its mind. Luke thought of the girl under canvas and the mother who found her, of oaths that had to learn their legs. He felt tired through and clean. "Kindness," May said, trying the word. "With boundaries," he said. "Law keeps it standing." A slow cloud let the half-moon through. The yard turned pewter. Luke pulled the bead down to his palm and hung it back where it could be seen from the lane. A late traveler might need a sign that didn't speak too loud. They sat together and let the silence do the talking. When he rose, the boards gave that small, right music of a house that knows its people. He checked the latch and looked once more at the 2 cups, the lamp, the bead, the wrapped plate. Road behind, road ahead. He had enough for both. "Good night, Luke," May said. "Night," he said. "We'll see what daylight decides." When the half-moon slipped higher and the lantern burned low, the porch held steady, just like the people who chose law over fear. Out here, justice can feel fragile, but kindness, with its own rough edges, keeps it standing. If a line or moment from this story lingered with you, I'd be honored to hear it in the comments. Sometimes the smallest detail, the quietest gesture, says the most.